All right, welcome back. We continue live right here on Pittsburgh CW. Bob Pompeani with you until 11 o'clock. Give us a call, and we'll be happy to take your calls here tonight until 11 o'clock. As you heard earlier in the newscast on Pittsburgh CW at Breaking News at 10, Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker Anthony Chickillo arrested in Uniontown. He has been charged with simple assault, criminal mischief, and harassment. He's been released with an unsecured bail of $10,000. The Steelers basically said that they are aware of the situation. Burt Lawton, their spokesperson, said they are looking into it, but at this point, no further comment. Well, more details at 11 o'clock on KDKA-TV. In the meantime, they'll be back to getting things going tomorrow after a long week off. They needed that with all the injuries they had, certainly. When you think about the guys who've been out, and Stephon Tuitt is such a good player, and you hate to see him go because he was off to a tremendous start for them, and yet he's done now. And so you're expecting other guys to really get the opportunity. First of all, Isaiah Buggs is a guy they brought in. They expect him to get some time there. We'll see what Walton can do as he's brought in. He was here for 4 years. And you have other guys, first-round pick, Alu, he's a guy who's going to have to do that at some point, get more time. Hargrave. So they got a lot of guys who are capable of playing. They just got to make sure they continue to get the kind of pressure they have from that defensive line, which has been very good. And I think certainly Cam has had an outstanding start as well to this season. So 412-575-2600. If you saw Aaron Rodgers today, 429 yards plus 5 touchdown passes. And then he also ran for another, so he accounted for 6 of them. And this is the first time in his career that he had a perfect passer rating of 158.3. That's pretty incredible. He's had a good year, but he's not had one of those years where you say, man, Aaron Rodgers is off the charts. He's at times struggled, but they're 6-1 and they're playing very well right now. So watch out for the Green Bay Packers as they beat the Oakland Raiders today. Rodgers also has 22 career games with at least 4 touchdown passes, and that surpasses Dan Marino on the all-time list there. Kirk Cousins had a big day today. Lamar Jackson, now you watched that game and you saw that he, again, continues to run the ball extremely well. 116 yards rushing. He passed for only 143, 9 of 20, but still, he's one of those guys who just makes things happen. Their defense stepped up big, as we showed you in the highlights, and if you're going to make plays like that defensively, you should be able to help an offense, and that's exactly what happened today. That defense, Marcus Peters, and I think now this is the first time ever that Peters is a player who scored a pick 6 with a new team after having one earlier. I think it was week 4 with the Rams. So that's 2 in 1 season, and he was acquired in that trade, so a good deal for them. All right, let's go to the lines. We'll start with Bill in Baldwin, who's first up tonight. Hey, Bill, how you doing?
Good, Bob. How are you?
Oh, good, thanks. What's going on, man?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. My question was before I heard about the Chickillo situation. Considering the Steelers' record under their opponents being 20-3, going into the I guess 22-4 now with Seattle and Baltimore.
Right. I
wanted to get your thoughts on their chances, especially with Baltimore's schedule going down the stretch, and also maybe on them signing Javon Hargrave going forward.
Well, I mean, Bill, the thing is they got home games coming up, and they're going to have to win all 3 if they can. That's not going to be an easy assignment for them, just because they're tough games. This Miami game coming up should not be a tough game. They should win that game, although you never know. Mistakes can happen. It looks easy. They're 14.5-point favorites in that game, so they should win that game and move on to 3 wins, 4 losses. And then the Colts. Colts come here, and that's a team with Jacoby Brissett. He's playing extremely well right now, and they have a very good defense. That's a good team. So they're on top of their division, and we'll see what the Steelers can do against them. But their defense is going to come up with some big plays. The thing I worry about with the Steelers right now is just the offense on a consistent basis. We expect James Conner to be back and healthy. He had a quad injury last week, but he was really good, I think. And when he's on his game, when he's capable of getting the kind of results, man, he's the best guy they have back there. I thought Benny Snell was terrific when he had his opportunity to play. 71 yards, I believe it was, in that game last week, but took advantage of an offensive line that I thought was at its best of the season, and they needed to be at their best of the season. It's too talented of a group not to. So That's going to be interesting. Those games, the Rams, the Rams have gone through 3 losses in a row. They're coming here, and they look pretty good today. So we'll see what happens. But these are all home games. The Steelers would love to win all 3 and at least get themselves back in that situation. Line 3 we go. Mike in Masontown. What's up, Mike? How are you?
I'm good, Bob. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Hey, I just wanted to talk about Chickalow up at Nemacolin, and what do you think the Steelers are going to do with him? And I know it's real early.
Yeah,
But,
I have no idea. I think you got to keep looking at what happened and how it happened and whatever else. I don't know any more specifics that came out, and we'll see what they do. But at this point, I think they're going to wait to see how it goes. I think he has an October 30th appearance in court. I'm not sure about that date. I think that's what it was. So we'll see. But those are things you don't want to see happen to anyone right now with the Steelers or any other professional team in town. Okay, let's go to line 4. That's Sam and Braddock. What's up, Sam? How are you tonight?
Hi, how you doing?
Good. What's going on?
I just called to ask you a few questions.
Sure.
Why did the Pirates wait so long to get rid of Hurdle? And why is it that some ball players do not want to come here and play baseball?
Why did they get rid of Hurdle? Wait so long. Well, here's the thing that I'd say about that. First of all, if you're going to do that, you had to get rid of everybody. You still have a GM in place and his entire staff when it comes to developmental teams and people like that. To me, it was a clean sweep that was necessary. But for some reason, that didn't happen. Instead, they went after Hurdle. I think a manager can only do so much. It's about what he has to deal with. And, they've had some good picks over the years. They've also not developed enough of them. And for a team that needs this kind of development to be successful, because they're not going to spend the kind of money that they should be spending, then, it falls on everyone involved. There should have been a clean sweep with that, with both the GM and the manager. Although, like I said, if you had asked me at the beginning of this who would go, whether it be the GM or the manager, I'd say the GM, just because, again, there is not a lot of talent working with, especially in the pitching department. But this is one of those things that's going to continue to unfold, and we'll see where it goes from here. But the Pirates certainly do have a lot of work to do when it comes to coming up with a plan to bring in some pitching. They don't have a lot of pitching, and they also need to spend money on pitching that can make them better. You can bring back the same group you have, but the expectations are not going to be all that high in a division that should be very, very difficult once again. Line 3 we go. It's Waylon in Washington. Hey, Waylon, how are you tonight?
Hey, Bob. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Hey, just check it out. I just was, maybe I'm wrong, but, I've been noticing, and I don't want to, point out certain people like Kelly from Notre Dame and Harbaugh with Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
They really work as referees on the sideline. I mean, I think it's disrespectful to the referees and to the fans. Maybe I'm wrong, but is that significant to what goes on in the game, or is that something that they're afraid they're losing, so they're trying to work some angle?
I mean, every coach is going to do what he can to get a call, or to that's just part of the game. I don't think I think Harbaugh's done an outstanding job for that team this year. Not many people expected them to go to Seattle and win, but their defense came up with the plays necessary to make it happen, just like the Steelers did last week. When they had a guy who's never played before at quarterback, they needed a defense. And when you spot them a 14-0 lead, it made life a lot easier. And I think that's exactly what that team did today out in Seattle. They took care of those things, big plays, and they changed the course of the game. Appreciate the call, man. Let's go out to Chuck in Crafton. Chuck, welcome to the Sports Call. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good, Bob.
Good.
Away from football, etc. For the Penguins, I'd like to see Mario get the Penguins a theme song. That would be the March of the Penguins. It's a really light, cheerful, happy tune. It'd be a great tune for the organist to play if the team comes out onto the ice.
Well, bottom line is the Penguins are going on the road right now, and they're off to a nice start, and they're playing well. It's going to be interesting for me to see what happens moving forward with the health. If everyone gets healthy, they're missing some pretty good players right now, but they're playing a way that is really responsible defensively, and you want to continue that. So when those guys are all healthy eventually, they have to continue to play that system. One of the problems the Penguins have had over the years is getting greedy and making plays when they don't have to make it, creating, odd man breaks the other way. And they're trying to limit that, and I think they've done that so far. So I think it's been a tremendous job so far by Sullivan to get things going the way he has, and he's getting production out of a lot of guys. They're pretty deep, and we'll see how it goes, longer term. But I like what I see from them so far, no doubt. Let's go to Daryl in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. What's up, Daryl? How are you?
Oh, hello. I'm a big Penn State Nittany Lion football fan.
Okay.
And I was wondering, since they beat Michigan last night and they're 7-0, what are their chances the rest of the season? And also the fact the only game I think they probably really going to lose is Ohio State if they play up to the potential. And also, what's their possibility of upsetting Ohio State and winning all the rest of their games,
well,
and making the college football playoff?
I mean, it's not going to be easy to win in Columbus. There's no question that team's playing very well right now. Also, Minnesota. We're going to talk about this on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown tonight about which team, Pitt or Penn State, has a better chance of winning their specific division of their conference. Penn State has a tough road, there's no doubt, but they're 6-0, and they won a big game against Michigan over the weekend. It was fun to watch that, and boy, the whiteout that you saw, that's something special with that many people there. It makes quite a statement to recruits who are coming in and watching that situation. As far as Pitt is concerned, what are they going to do? They need to win out. They should be able to win out, but hey, the ACC is highly unpredictable. We saw Miami. I don't know what Miami team should show up. The team that you would expect them to be, or the team that we've seen the last couple of weeks. Not all that good. So it's going to be interesting to see, but that's going to be a big game next week, Saturday, at Heinz Field. We're going to take a break here. We have Rick and we have Mr. somebody from, where is he from? Youngwood. That's all coming up when we come back. We'll take a break here. You are watching the outstanding edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports.